Well, hey, it's Heidi. We are going to talk about the proper way to eat rice. Have you been doing it all wrong, or do you have it all down? It's different depending on where you go, so you better stay tuned. Thank you. Well, hello, and I'm so happy to see you today. It's Heidi Dubelbahn, International Cultural Consultant and Etiquette Expert. Today we are going to talk about how to properly eat rice. Okay, big subject, rice. It's fascinating. Do you like rice? You know, there are so many different kinds of rice. The most popular is white rice. So let's talk about rice for a minute. How long have we been eating rice? Well, I'm going to tell you, they have found fossils of grains of rice 10,000 years old. 10,000 years ago, they believed that rice sprung up in the Pearl River Valley in China. And from there, it spread across most of Asia into Africa to different parts of the world, and rice is grown around the world today. It's such an interesting crop. Do you know that 20% of the planet's dietary energy comes from rice? Yes, isn't that fascinating? And 3.5 billion people every day, that is their main dietary staple. 3.5 million people depend on rice. It is part of their diet. That's half the population on the planet. It's pretty interesting. So we've had a long history with rice. Interesting crop. It is a tedious, hand-harvested, hand-planted crop. A lot of work goes into rice. And there's really kind of a neat Chinese myth about rice. And let me share this because it's kind of neat. So there was this terrible flood throughout China, and it was devastating. All the crops were devastated, and the people were starving, and the animals were dying. There was nothing but water, nothing to eat. It got so bad that the people that were surviving took to living in the top of trees just to escape all the water. And one day the water is starting to go down a bit, and some people are down on the ground, and they're trying to see what they can scrounge to eat, and they see this dog. Yes, a dog starts walking towards them, and the dog gets to them, and they notice that this dog's tail has all these little yellow seeds on them. They thought, what is this? Well, they plant these seeds, and it's rice, and that brought us rice, and rice, like I said, was domesticated 10,000 years ago. So 3.5 billion people on the planet can't be all wrong. Personally, I absolutely love rice. And so we're going to talk about how you properly eat rice around the world, because it is different. There's different etiquette, there's different utensils around the world. And if you would like to take a really deep dive into this, drop me a comment, because I'm going to try to be somewhat respectful. No, I'm going to be very respectful of your time, but there's so much to tell you. So, okay, let's just start in the Western world. Okay, I live in the United States, and let's just say that I am served a plate for dinner, and I've got some sort of a chop on here, and some vegetables, and some rice, and I'm here in the western part of the world, so I would use my knife and fork. Yes, I could use my knife and fork. If I'm eating continental style, I can put some rice on my fork and eat that. If I'm zigging and zagging like an American, I can just pick up some of the rice in my right hand and just eat that, take that to my mouth. So that's how we can do that in the Western world, because the rice is part of a grouping on a plate where I'm using utensils for everything on the plate. Okay, so that's great in the Western world. Well, how about in the Eastern world, where we may be served a bowl of rice? Okay, well, it depends on where we are. And again, I'm just going to sort of hit some highlights, being respectful. So let's just start where rice early began, before it spread around the world. And one of the people that we owe thank you for spreading around the world was Alexander the Great. Yeah, about 300 BC, he was in India and had rice that had gotten to India long before that, and he took some back with him to the Middle East, and they started growing rice in the Middle East thanks to Alexander the Great. Thank you, Alexander the Great. Okay, so now chopsticks in the East. Chopsticks are used to eat rice in some countries, not all. Okay, sort of a trick question. Which country? Let's talk about the three main kinds of chopsticks, and we'll talk about the three main ways of eating rice in the Far East. So we'll talk about China, we'll talk about Japan, and we'll talk about Korea. Okay, so hold on to that thought. We will answer that. But right now, let's talk about chopsticks. Okay, so chopsticks are different in China and in Korea and in Japan. In China, the chopsticks are the longest. Here are some Chinese chopsticks. They're quite long, and they are about the same width down. They're not very tapered, and this is general rules. You'll find exceptions, general rules. They have blunt ends, and it makes sense that they would in China, because that goes back to Confucius. Confucius was anti-violence, and he did not like knives coming to the table. So Confucius said, please chop up all the food before and cook it before you bring it to the table, so there are no knives needed at the table. And there was a shortage of fuel and things to make fire and burn, and so they found that the smaller they chopped things up, the more efficient it was to cook. And so that just made total sense. And the chopsticks are longer. They're blunt because of Confucius, and they're longer because the Chinese like to share food. If you've been to China, they have round, beautiful round tables, and there's the middle is sort of like a lazy Susan that can move around, and you could be able to reach something in front of you, so your chopsticks are a bit longer. We never want to point them towards someone. Okay, so then the next size, they're the longest, the next size is found in Korea. And in Korea, they are different. Unlike in China, they're commonly wood, could be other materials. Mine today are wood, but in Korea, they are a little shorter than found in China, and they're usually made of metal. So here we are, we have metal chopsticks in Korea, but here's the answer to the question. We do not use the chopsticks in Korea to eat our rice. No, we have a spoon. In Korea, you're given chopsticks and always a spoon, and we would eat the rice with our spoon. Liquids and rice with our spoon, solids with our chopstick in Korea. So there you go. It's different where you're traveling. You need to be aware of where you are. You need to do a lot of research. Okay, let's say we're in Japan. Well, they're the shortest, just by a little bit, and they are tapered and they have points at the end. And that makes sense because fish is a big part of the Japanese diet, and you could use the pointy ends to perhaps remove any bones, and it is not shared eating in Japan, so they don't need to be extra long. So there you have that in Japan. And now you'd say, yes, Heidi, but where I go and eat a lot of rice, they have disposable chopsticks. What's the deal with that? Well, guess what? There is even etiquette with chopsticks, disposable chopsticks. So, what is it, you ask? Well, thank you for asking. Okay, so here's the etiquette. Please do this next time you are dining and you're given disposable chopsticks. You open them just gently. You bring out the chopsticks and please never ever rub chopsticks together. That's considered quite rude to do that. When you rub chopsticks together, that is saying, and then you just simply break them apart. They break apart. Never rub them together. It says, this restaurant's so cheap and nasty that I have to rub my chopsticks together to get off any splinters. So no, you would never do that. You'd hold them just the same, and at the end of the meal, you take the wrapper that they came in and you put them back in the wrapper and you leave them on your plate. So that is the etiquette with that. Okay, so now let's talk about how we would eat the rice properly. We know in the West what we would do, and if you are at a restaurant and you're in the western part of the world and you are given chopsticks, go ahead. You know, when I'm dining at an Asian restaurant and they have chopsticks is appropriate, not Korean, yes, I love using chopsticks, and I have a surefire way. I'm happy to share this with you. So I'm going to use my Chinese chopsticks as a little nod, because chopsticks were the rice originated in China all those years ago. And I will tell you a fun little other story that years and years and years ago, centuries ago in China, some of the emperors had silver chopsticks. Yes, silver, because they believed that the silver would turn colors. It would turn to black if there was poison, if there was arsenic, or somebody was trying to poison them. You know, throughout the ages, people have always been so worried about being poisoned, especially when they're eating. So they had these silver chopsticks, and when they were eating different things, if they turned black, they thought, you're trying to poison me, and the chef everybody would be terrible things would happen. But come to find out, turns out that there are certain things like some onions, some garlic, different other things, vinegars, that will turn silver a color. It will turn it a funny color, and some unfortunate things happened to chefs that had used those. So luckily they got away from the silver chopsticks. Okay, so now may I show you my way of using chopsticks. It's a surefire way. Once you learn this, you will be able to do this forever. I was taught this years ago when I was a child in Japan, and you never gesture with chopsticks, by the way, so I will put those down. I was lucky enough to travel there with my dad, and these chopsticks I've had since I was 9 years old. They're lacquered, which is very common in Japan, and there's beautiful little intricate designs on them, very typical. And I've had those since I was 9 years old. It's amazing, isn't it? All the moves and all the things in your life, and they really mean something to me. So I'm very glad to have those. So. And you will find in throughout Asia that people do have their own. Yes, they use disposable chopsticks, and they're coming much into favor for environmental reasons right now. But you will find that people do have their own set of chopsticks, which is quite nice. So here is my way to teach you how to use chopsticks. So here's the tip nobody tells you. One chopstick never moves, it's the anchor, it's static, and the other one does all the work. Okay, nobody ever told me that. It took me a long time to figure it out. Okay, so the bottom chopstick rests there in the crease of your hand here, where your thumb meets the palm of your hand. You place a chopstick there, hold it down with your index finger and your pinky. Can you see this? Hold this down. This will not move. It does not move. Okay, now take the top chopstick, which is going to do all the work. Now you hold it at the tip of your thumb. Now take it with your index finger and your middle finger, and you hold that, and now you can move. So watch this. Okay, so can you see this? So the top one does all the work. The bottom one is static. Try this. You'll take a little practice. You're going to get onto this so fast. You're going to say, oh, that Heidi, she has all these tips. Now, here is a tip about etiquette. Never bang them on the table like you're trying to even them out. That's considered rude. Don't bang them on your bowl saying, okay, I need something, I want some more. And I'm just going to show you how you can pick the rice up. Now, again, depending on where you are in parts of China, yes, you can pick the bowl up and it could be very close to your mouth and you can eat like this. In Japan, you can pick the bowl up, but you would bring it more to you. So I'm just going to leave it on the table as they do in Korea. And I would just pick up some rice with my chopsticks and then I would eat them. And then I would just keep eating them, eat all the rice. So it's that easy. Okay, so again, the bottom one is static. Remember, it's not moving. That is our anchor. The top one, it's hinged at the top of your thumb. Index finger, middle finger, they do all the work. They do all the work. It's that simple. Isn't that neat? Okay, so now you've learned a little bit about rice. Now you know how to eat it. Now you know that it is different around the world where you go. There are many parts of the world that eat rice with their hands, and there is etiquette about eating with your hands, and we can go into all of that if you would like to know. I would love to tell you. Here is my last tip for you etiquette-wise. Never ever leave chopsticks standing straight up in a bowl of rice. That has references to death and funerals, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so I hope this helps a little bit. Thank you so much for taking time to watch this. Please be so kind. Please drop me a comment. What else do you want to know? You want to take a deeper dive? Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. I'd love to. I've got so much more history and the myths and all these great stories to tell you. I can only tell you so much in one go. So let me know if you want some more. We'll take a deep dive. Meanwhile, please be so kind as to subscribe to my channel and spread the word. And if you like the video, like the video. Alrighty, thank you everyone. Stay safe. Thank you for tuning in. Happy rice eating. And as I always say, please be kind. Thank you.